Yesterday we've been discussing about this subject of the gradual stages of realizing peace by extinguishing Kilesas. Namely, there are 5 stages of realizing peace, Nibbuti. Namely, the Dhamma Nibbuti, temporary peace by substitution of opposites. Second one is Vipassana Nibbuti, realizing peace by distancing the opposites or suppression of the opposites, or keeping the defilements in abeyance. The third one is Samuccaya Nibbuti, realizing peace by cutting off the opposites, that means cutting off the defilements. And the fourth one is Paṇḍitā Nibbuti, repeated realization of peace by extinguishing defilements. And the fifth and last one is Nisarana Nibbuti, realizing peace by renunciation, that is realizing Nibbana. And we have discussed these 2 things. First of all, the Dhamma Nibbuti, temporary peace, and then we went on to discuss Vipassana Nibbuti, that is realizing peace by suppression of the opposites, distancing the defilements, keeping them in abeyance. As for the first one, it should be understood already by explanation. And in the case of the second one, we just started this topic. So out of these 2 Nibbutis, 2 stages of peace, one is bound to get the direct results out of that, and the indirect results by in the form of benefiting the society. And today we shall continue this topic, both from the theoretical and practical aspects. Out of the 3 kinds of unwholesome deeds or immoral deeds, duccharita, 2 things, namely kaya duccharita, the bodily misconduct, and vaci duccharita, verbal misconduct, will be overcome with the practice of moral virtue, sila, so long as one has taken the vows of precept not to break or tear them, so long as one is able to sustain them. There will be no transgressive actions by body and speech. We are said to be extinguishing on a part-time basis the transgressive forms of defilements, the defilements which arise in the body and speech. Later, by building momentum with the practice, they will go on extinguishing, or one will be realizing peace continuously. And as the nodi mind is continuous, this particular Kilesas, obsessive defilements, will not have a chance to arise, leading to first Dhamma, temporary peace, then building up momentum as one goes on practicing it. As the practice is going well, these obsessive defilements will continue to be overcome. There will be continuance of peace. One will be able to distance these obsessive defilements, keeping them at abeyance. It is quite obvious. At this point, we are said to be realizing Vipassana Nibbuti, peace by suppression. That is the Vipassana Nibbuti. Though at this point, though at times we may be missing some mindfulness for 1 minute or so, the gross forms of defilements will not arise in one's stream of consciousness. One will remain at peace. this also is realizing the Vekamana, Nibbudi, peace by suppression. Two basic reasons for the realization of this temporary peace, peace by substitution. Now, these three kinds of physical misconduct, such as killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and then 4 kinds of verbal misconduct, such as false speech, indulging in false speech, malicious speech, harsh speech, and meaningless conversations. So, if one is wise enough or reasonable enough to think about the pros and cons of these actions, one will feel ashamed and fearful about committing such things. That is, hiri-ottappa, feeling ashamed, spiritually ashamed and spiritually afraid of wrongdoing. And it is necessary to understand this. So if one understands the consequences of these misconduct, then one is bound to become afraid, ashamed and fearful of committing these things. So these 2 wholesome mental states, namely shame and fear of wrongdoing, are very important. They are the main causes for abstaining from immoral deeds. If you possess these 2 wholesome mental states, then it becomes easy for you to abstain from committing these unwholesome physical and mental conduct. And also, having regard to oneself, one should possess this moral shame and moral fear of wrongdoing. Otherwise, one will be easy to commit these wrongdoing. If one cannot control oneself without having regard to oneself or one's own dignity or honor, instead one is shameless and fearless in wrongdoing, then one will be committing all these unwholesome deeds, filthy does, so that the result is one will be degraded. So by understanding the unwholesomeness of this wrongdoing, one should abstain from these things by controlling oneself. And so long as one is able to restrain one's behaviors, one's physical and verbal behaviors will become purified, and will be able to overcome these transgressive types of enemies, such as killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, which have their causes in 3 unwholesome roots, namely greed, hatred, and delusion. And due to these 3 unwholesome deeds, unwholesome mental states, unwholesome roots, indulging in them, one may commit wrongdoing. By indulging in them, because one is not knowing the consequences of such actions, one may commit transgressive actions. However, if one understands the consequences of these misconduct, then one will find it easy to abstain from this wrongdoing by body and speech. So by controlling oneself, one is overcoming the transgressive forms of defilement, vitakama, kilesas, and you are free from the enemies, transgressive enemies, which are also internal enemies. If you are free from internal enemies, then you will be free from the 4 kinds of dangers. That is, the first danger is the danger of self-blame or self-reproach. reproaching oneself, blaming oneself for having committed wrongdoing and feeling remorse about it. Such is known in Pali as Adanuvara Bhaya, self-reproach or self-blame. Especially when at the time of death or when near death, you may remember all these unwholesome deeds will come to your recollection, come to your memory, and you feel very miserable about all these things. If, however, you are able to practice the restraint of these wrongdoing, then you will be free from this first kind of danger, namely the danger of self-blame or self-reproach. Thus, being able to overcome this internal enemy, you are said to be safe. And then the second kind of danger is blame or reproach by the society, especially the wise, known as Paranuvara Bhaya. You will be free from that if you practice the restraint on these physical and verbal behaviors. So, if you commit these unwholesome deeds, you will be underestimated, or you will be blamed, criticized by good people. And if you, on the other hand, if you abstain, if you practice the restraint of these behaviors, you will be free from this internal enemy and be safe. And the third danger is danger of being punished by the authorities due to because you are transgressing the existing laws of the authorities. And such kind of danger is known as Danda Bhaya. If you transgress these things, if you commit unwholesome deeds, then you may be arrested and imprisoned by the society. So, if you commit these unwholesome deeds, you will not be free from this kind of danger. And a fourth kind of danger is as a result of this, of your unwholesome volition, chetana, your future existence will not be wholesome. You fall into the lower states. Such a danger is known as Dogati Bhaya. And however, if you abstain from these physical, verbal, misbehaviors, defilements, by having taken the house of practice, precepts, as much as you abstain from these unwholesome deeds, you will not fall into the states of loss. Thus, you will be free from this Dogati Bhaya, from this danger of the future destinies. So in this way, so as much as you practice the restraint of these physical and verbal behaviors, you will be free from these internal dangers. They are close internal enemies, and if you overcome them, you will be overcoming these vitikama kilesas, transgressive defilements, and by being free from these transgressive defilements, transgressive behaviors, you will be free from the above four kinds of dangers. So if you think about it, because you are free, you will be secure and peaceful. Such is the positive result of the practice of the restraint of your physical and verbal behaviors. Namely, you are free from the four kinds of dangers, as we have discussed. So by controlling oneself or protecting oneself, one also not only protect oneself so that one will not be degraded, at the same time you are also protecting others by not harming others. Because you are not committing unwholesome deeds, others are not affected. In this way, you are doing for the society in one way. So this is how by overcoming this Videkama Kilesas, consists form of defilements, you are realizing the temporary or part-time peace by substitution. You'll be secure and peaceful. Now these dojaritas, unwholesome deeds by word and speech, will be overcome if you practice these two wholesome mental states, namely shame and fear of wrongdoing. Then you'll be practicing the restraint of yourself. By practicing the restraint of yourself, you are at the same time protecting others with sympathetic or altruistic feeling. Hence, it is given as by intellectual reasoning or wisdom. By protecting oneself with wisdom or intellectual reasoning, you are at the same time protecting others. Namely, Pinyaya Atanam Rekhanto Param Rekati. That is, by intellectual reasoning or wisdom, you are practicing the restraint of yourself. And by doing that with wisdom, you are at the same time protecting others so that others will not be harmed. And another way is with karuna, with compassionate feeling. Karunaya param rekhanto adanam rekati. By protecting others, that is another way. With compassionate feeling or altruistic feeling. Because you have compassion or sympathy towards others, you protect others. By protecting others, by not harming others, you are at the same time not defiled. You are not, yourself will not be harmed. When, as a human being, it is, we are not to just look at our own prosperity or welfare, we should also look at or look after others' prosperity or welfare, which is very important. As much as one wishes to be peaceful or to realize peace and happiness, we should know that others also will not wish to suffer. They will wish only to realize peace and happiness. Such is an altruistic feeling or sympathetic feeling for others. And to do this, the basic practice is the practice of metta, loving kindness for all beings, wishing for the welfare of all beings or for others. As much as you wish for the welfare of yourself, you will wish for the welfare of others. In all aspects, you are wishing that others will realize good things, others will be happy and peaceful. Then you will not wish others to suffer. You will abstain from doing harm to others. You will not wish to do that. So the result is that your social relations will become very, very good, and you will be able to bear things, tolerate things, be patient, and you will wish to be the one who suffers instead of wishing others to suffer for any undertaking. Of course, in the worldly sense, this is tantamount to suffering loss, but in fact, you are overcoming this internal enemy, defilements which are oppressive and tormenting, and by indulging in these defilements, your mind will become defiled, tainted or stained and degraded. So that, so as not to allow these things to happen, you practice loving kindness, metta. And if you are able to practice and build momentum in this practice, you will be able to practice the restraint, and you will be able to practice patience and forbearance. So such kind of mentality is a feeling of altruistic feeling or sympathetic feeling. As much as you don't want to endure suffering, others will also like, or others also will not wish to suffer. Such is an altruistic feeling. And with metta, you want to do whatever is justified, so that because of your loving kindness, there will be no anger or aversion towards others. And because you have sympathetic feeling, you'll be able to associate with other people in a very amicable manner, and you will not be indulging in greed and hatred, because you are having an altruistic feeling. So in this way, you will be able to control yourself, at the same time protect others, and because you have this sympathetic feeling, you will not wish others to suffer or others to be harmed. So others are said to be protected and controlled. In this way, we say this expression with a compassionate feeling or altruistic feeling. By protecting others with compassion, you are at the same time not defiling yourself. You are at the same time protecting yourself by not defiling yourself. So this way, doing one thing, you are accomplishing two things at the same time. That means by protecting yourself with intellectual reasoning or wisdom, you are at the same time not harming others, protecting others. And another way around, in another sense, with compassionate feeling, you are not harming others or protecting others. By doing that, you are also not defiling yourself, you are protecting yourself. And this way, such is the result of the practice of sila, the moral virtue. When you think about it, you are said to be overcoming these transgressive forms of defilements, which have the quality of burning, which can burn or torment or oppress you. In this way, these transgressive forms of defilements are said to be suppressed. By indulging in them, you are not committing wrongdoing by body and speech, so that you will not be defiled physically, verbally, and you will not be degraded, because you are free from this oppressive, tormenting, undermining elements. You are free from impurities until you are able to realize Nibbana. And then you are not controlling your physical and verbal behaviors, for which the Buddha has preached, Pranibbanaya Dhammante Siti. He preached after he has attained Nibbana, he teaches for the sake of attaining Nibbana or peace, so that you are extinguishing the defilements which are oppressive and tormenting and undermining. In this way, you are temporarily free from these defilements. Such the way the Buddha preaches to practice sila sekha, morality training. So whoever undertakes that practice will realize the Dhamma Niputi, temporary peace, by overcoming these transgressive defilements. And you are not, because you are free from that, you are not oppressed by them. Because you are not oppressed by these defilements, you will not become wearied. Because you are not burned by them, tormented by them, you will not suffer heat, and you will not be degraded. So the Buddha has given these teachings to overcome these videkama kilesas. That's why, hence this teaching, Pranibbanaya Dhammante Seti. He teaches for the sake of attaining peace. As for the yogis who have come here, they have undertaken the vows and precepts, practice moral virtues. As for monks, they have their own rules of conduct for monks, so that they are controlling themselves at the same time, not harming others, they are feeling peaceful. And so that their physical and verbal behaviors become pure and cultivated, they are said to be upgraded. And as for the lay yogis, they are also sustaining the 8 precepts in a similar way, so that they are finding it beneficial by sustaining this sila. Such is how one should be satisfied with the practice of the basic training of moral conduct. So the Buddha has given his teachings in Dhammavada that all beings except the Arahants and some special animals, they are afraid of death. Everybody fears death. So if one has got to be sympathetic feeling towards others, so as not to allow them, others, to endure suffering. Such is by compassion. And also with intellectual reasoning or wisdom, by controlling oneself or protecting oneself, one also is protecting others so that others will not be harmed. All beings wish to be happy and peaceful by nature. Even down to the minute insects, they wish to be happy and peaceful. If one does not understand that, instead one would persecute them, oppress them, or even kill them, then you are not will be it will be tantamount to being cruel to all these creatures. So this is in this regard, we remember the writings, inscriptions of Emperor Ashoka, which says that everybody does things which he or she thinks has been good. Because they think good, they think whatever they do is good, they do it. And they want to be happy and peaceful, and they do things, but it may be bad for others. If it's cruel actions for other people or other beings, then one is bound to suffer unhappiness in future. So everybody wants to be happy and peaceful. So if on the other hand, if not only one looks or one strives for peace and happiness of oneself, but also peace and happiness of others without harming others, then one is bound to achieve happiness at a later time. So in this way, with intellectual reasoning or wisdom, if one protects oneself, at the same time one will be protecting others so that others will not be harmed. Therefore, it is necessary, the Buddha has taught, to control oneself, practice the restraint of oneself. At the same time, control or protect others. Such is the practice of sila, moral conduct. So if one is able to do that, one will be a real human being. Otherwise one will be inhuman, known in Pali as amanusa. So if one is a human being, then one should behave to be a fully human being with the practice of sila sekha, the morality training, so as to be free from the part-time or the videkama kilesa, transgressive defilements, so that there will be part-time peace by substitution, a part-time peace by overcoming these transgressive forms of defilements. Thus, one will realize peace and happiness, and there will be no enemies. And at this point, one should think about whether there are other beings of refuge, such as celestial being or Brahma or Savior, who has given such teachings. The Buddha has preached to win victory over oneself and not to indulge in these oppressive elements, namely greed, hatred, and division, and doing non-Dhamma, Adhamma things. And by doing Adhamma things, you may be winning victory over oneself, but you are not winning over yourself. And by winning over others, it may appear to be winning, when in fact you are suffering loss. With Metta Karuna, loving kindness and compassion, if you are able to practice patience, forbearance, sympathetic feeling, altruistic feeling, with intellectual reasoning, then by outer appearance, you may appear to be suffering loss, but in fact you are winning victory over yourself, over the internal enemies, namely greed, hatred, and delusion. In this way, you will be free from the dangers. By winning victory over internal enemy, you will be free from these dangers. In this way, for this, you practice the restraint of physical or verbal behavior, that is sila sikha, and by this you are winning victory over yourself. So, by being grounded in this practice of sila, you are practicing meditation, and if you think about it, you should rejoice with yourself, with the practice. So, may you be able to overcome defilements, including the latent tendencies of defilements with the practice. That's all.